Hey, hey, welcome to the Summit Host Hangout podcast where you'll learn how to plan, strategize, and launch your profitable online summit. No influencer status necessary. I'm your host, Krista from Summit in a Box, and today in episode 129, I'm excited to bring in a special guest to talk about increasing exposure organically leading up to a virtual summit. If you want to grow your summit without ads or expand your growth strategy past ads, this one is going to be so good for you. To give you some background information on our guest, she's an award-winning digital marketer who teaches makers how marketing can be easy and fun using organic techniques so they can be more profitable and productive with her 4E formula. Her clients have been featured everywhere from the New York Times to Oprah Magazine to the Today Show, and she has so much knowledge to share. So without further ado, let's dive in and talk with Liz Fleming. Welcome, Liz.
Hey. Hi, guys. Hey, Krista. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be way too fun. I'm so excited to talk about this. And she gave me a little sneak peek before we started recording, and I seriously can't wait to get into the good stuff here. Before we do that, just tell us a little bit about you and your business.
Sure. Yeah. So I am a marketer for makers. It's as simple as that. I love working with those who are building and bringing physical products to life and digital products. And what I am so passionate about, because my background is in PR, you're earning your attention, you're not paying for it, is teaching those makers how they can grow their exposure from the ground up for free. So that's where that 4E formula comes into play, because there's a lot of pressure these days to pay for all kinds of stuff. And especially if you're just starting out and you're just experimenting, it's not necessary. There's a lot that has to happen first to get you set up for success. So that's what I'm most passionate about.
I love that. I think you said earning attention and not paying for it.
Yeah.
That's gold. I love that line. All right. And you just hosted your first summit. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that. Tell us what your summit was about, the audience, how it went, all the things.
Yes, all the things. So it was called the Made by Me Summit, and it was specifically for makers. And it was to teach them more of those organic strategies to set them up for success online. And we specifically targeted makers who create and sell physical products because that looks different. So a lot of them are specializing, in Etsy shops, or they're working with Shopify, and there's all this other stuff like drop shipping that comes into play for some of them. And the summit took place over 3 days. We had 3 different themes. Day 1 was setup, day 2 was market, day 3 was scale. I had 20 speakers, including myself, and they talked about a whole range of topics. It was so fantastic. I think it broke down to like 7 speakers a day and then 6 on the last day or something like that. But it was just such a good flow, and I really tried to just give myself some room for fun and play with this summit because it was my first one. So I self-hosted it on my website, which went really well. We sold an all-access pass. We sold a few of those, which we hosted in member vaults. And then, we just kind of rode with it. We did the whole release thing that was like release your presentations at the same time each day and let it run for 24 hours. And that went fantastically. I got some really good feedback because people are tuning in from all over the world, and that accommodated them in their schedule. So overall, it was awesome. It was so fun. It was a lot of work, as you know, but it was great.
For sure. Do you like that you got specific with targeting physical product makers and specifically talking about organic strategies?
Yeah. At first, I was afraid it was going to be too niche. It might have been, but I think there's still something there that I want to play with. So I'm definitely going to host the summit a couple more times. But that went really well, and it attracted exactly who I needed it to and wanted it to. And that's what was so fun for me.
Heck yeah, I love that. Yeah. I bet it made it like easier and fun for you to find speakers and choose presentations and all that stuff too, because you had such a specific strategy and people you were talking to. That's cool. Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you've identified that you know you want to do differently next time?
Give myself twice as much time, because there's so much I want to do, and you don't realize, even with your tools, which are amazing, 120 days was not enough for me, even with an assistant. But Granted, I was also trying to do like all of the things the first time that you specifically encourage people not to, like sponsorship program and affiliates and like ads and all that stuff. But I definitely think specifically timing with pitching speakers, because like the world and society is changing so much right now. So what used to work a year or two ago in terms of pitching people is not working right now. People are all over the place.
Mhm.
There's so many opportunities. And it was really important to me with my speakers that I reached I had a diverse lineup. So I wasn't pitching people specifically who looked like me. It was important that I was doing that research, and that research is what took the longest. And you have to develop the relationships. So I would say that was probably the biggest thing.
Yes. Oh my goodness. The relationships, the research. Thank you for talking about those things. And even
Yeah.
I messed that up with my last summit. I gave myself like half of a day in my timeline to find my speakers. And like 3-4 days later, I was finally wrapping it up. I was like, this is the worst. I always forget how long that takes. But I
Yeah.
love that you gave yourself the time you needed to get that right and get the perfect lineup for you and all that good stuff. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all your summit details. I always just need to dig in a little bit before we get into the topic when I know someone has recently hosted a summit, because it's just so fun. But we will finally dive into the topic. So we know we can grow our summit by, running ads and, promoting to an audience we have and all that stuff. But I am all for anything we can do for free before the summit to gain exposure, to leverage it once promotion starts, all that good stuff. So let's dive into that. What are some of the strategies you recommend for getting exposure for our summit without running paid ads?
Totally. Yeah. So I know the biggest thing for me, it's just what I cared about the most was my speakers and their experience. And I picked them for a reason. They're very smart, all very brilliant experts and women. And it's just a mixture of audiences, big and small. And it was important to me to help them make this process as easy as possible. So when I pitch them, it's, developing that relationship, and then it's like keeping them excited along the journey. So I was very meticulous about how I followed up with them and the materials that I provided them, but they were so appreciative of it. And actually, I think it was maybe a month before the summit, I decided, I had so much that I wanted to share with them that I decided to just record a little video for them and send it. And they ended up loving that because they could see me. And I had this big fear for my first summit that I couldn't, I was very transparent. I was like, I'm not able to pay my speakers. I doubt I'm going to profit from this. It's just an experiment. We're going to see what happens. And that's kind of scary to broach via email. So I was afraid I was going to scare them away. And I thought, deep down, this was that thing that was poking at me. So I recorded a short little video and it was like, here's what's going on. Here's what you can expect. That got them even more amped up. I got some really great feedback. And then they were just so much more excited to talk about it. And I provided them graphics. I provided them email copy. I was tagging them as often as I could. It was like a month worth of tagging them and resharing their content. So it was just really fun, and they crushed it. So that was huge for us, for sure, in terms of the organic marketing. The second thing that was huge was I'm a publicist. So after 10 years in that industry, I'm very comfortable pitching the media. And that's something that I did right away once I knew this was going to be a thing, this event. And we got some stories picked up locally, and that was fantastic for our exposure. So,
ooh, okay, we're going to dive into that. I want to circle back to speakers real quick before we do, because there are just some things you said that I loved. I love that you focused on, even in your first summit, you realized the importance of developing a relationship with these speakers. And it sounds like it might be something you did like accidentally, or is it a decision you made in the moment, but your transparency with them. I feel like that is so important. And that's a huge thing that gets speakers on board, is because when you're transparent with them, it makes them feel like a part of the process. It makes them see that you value them. You think they're important enough to have this information. And that's huge. And like you said, that got them more engaged and excited than probably anything else, is just seeing that you cared about them enough to be giving them this update. And, whether or not you have that specific kind of update to give where you're like uncomfortable, you don't want to go into a subject, but you just feel like it's the right thing to do. No matter what, being transparent throughout the process is a huge part of getting speakers engaged. And you said you were like resharing their content leading up to the summit, which so good, makes it so that they want to support you back because you've been supporting them. And I'm sure that paid off.
And it really helped too, honestly, that I had like a speakers area of my summit website that was like breaking down like the whole experience for them. Like it had where they could submit everything, it had dates, and that really legitimized the whole experience, because a lot of the people I was pitching they're a big deal. So I knew that I had to have something substantial to back me up before I went out and started pitching these people. And then, from the beginning, I was so transparent in my email. I probably spent the most time on the speaker emails because they were so important to me. And then having a contract too, a legal contract, really helped also legitimize the experience for them. They're like, okay, this isn't going to be a waste of time. She's planning this out. She knows what she's doing. She's very organized. And she's just like a cool chick. She's here when I need her. I gave my cell phone number to all the speakers. We've exchanged text messages. It was that kind of relationship. So that was,
oh my goodness,
100% the most important thing for me. And now I've got 19 new connections that I know I can lean on. And I'm genuinely excited to like be part of their corners of the internet, I guess.
Oh my gosh. Heck yes. I love that. I love that you like exchange phone numbers and everything. I haven't done that, but I think I might moving forward, because like you said, it's a new level of connection, a new level of being there for them. You're like, hey, whatever you need, I am here. And what you mentioned about having a page on the website just for them, that's something I do too. I never pitch without having a full page of everything they need to know about the event. And like you said, if you're pitching people, even if you've connected a few times on social media, that just makes everything look so much more legitimate to them. And I know, like, when I'm getting pitched, I'm so much more likely to say yes if I have all that information, if I can see that they're taking this seriously. So I love that. It sounds like you nailed it with your speakers in your very first summit, which is impressive. So
yeah, that was fun. Props. It was scary and intimidating, but it was fun once I kind of got the hang of it, and I had my core group of people. I really tried to develop and make it kind of a little network for us. So, and then they all connected. So I feel great about that.
Yes. Okay. I love it. So let's dive into the pitching the media part, because this is something I've never heard about, never dove into myself. So kind of tell us a little bit about what that looked like. I know you said you got some stories picked up locally. To me, I'm like, I have no idea what that would look like, how to do that, what that means. So tell us about what you did here.
Sure. So I did a couple of things that were kind of out of the box, a little different, but the primary one is pitching local media. And I've been picked up here in the media before because I've taught at the local college, or I've hosted keynotes and whatever events. So I have contacts that, again, relationships around town. And I thought to myself, you know what, this is an event, even though it's virtual, that can help so many people in this community. So I just reached out to my contacts and was like, hey, here's this thing. It was literally like 5 sentences. That's just how the media rolls these days. I was like, here's this event. Here's the link. Here's when it's happening. It's totally free, hosted by me. Would love, a nod in the paper or online, anything you can swing. And then it was online. It was in the paper. It was stuff I could reshare. I actually sent, for each media pitch, I sent them a tracking link, like a UTM bit.ly sort of link, so I could actually see how many clicks each of those publications got once they ran. And we got a great amount of signups from that press coming through. And that was huge for us. So that's kind of the stuff I teach all of my clients. And it can be scary if you've never done it, but it's so worth it. And especially if it's helping people, then, the press is going to want to know about it and hear about it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I love the heck out of this.
Yeah.
So you went all local. Do you think this could work also with, other types of media that's not
Totally.
necessarily local to you?
Totally. Yeah. You just have to give yourself a bit more lead time for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say you want to make sure you really know the publications you're pitching. Like, I read and I know the publications that I pitch. I know exactly which areas of those publications to target. So, for example, my contacts that I pitched were those who specifically publish stories about small business and entrepreneurship. So,
Nice.
knowing exactly who your people are, and not aiming too big for people like you, Krista, because you've done like a bajillion summits and have seen so much growth. You're ready for that. You're ready for the
Mm-hmm.
big leagues. I would say for others like me who are still starting out in this zone, it's like stick to local, stick to regional. So that's what I
Mm-hmm.
did. And the other thing that I did too that I also wanted to mention was I made a list because I'm targeting makers. I made a list of what are called these makers markets because they have become really popular throughout the pandemic. It's like these virtual markets where people can sell their products. And then there's pop-up markets where people can sell their products. And this is really big where I am in North Carolina, like in Raleigh, here in Pinehurst, over in Charlotte. So I made a list of those markets. And then I also invited all of them to the summit and then gave them copy to also invite their audiences. So that was just a big gimme for them because they're like, sweet, this is totally going to help all of the makers that we're also trying to help. So it was really a big group effort.
That's amazing. So you were intentional about thinking of, okay, what publications are my people reading and represented in, and what other things are they a part of? Like,
Exactly.
is this like Maker's Market you were talking about, kind of like an association type thing that other niches might run into?
Not really. So, for example, in Raleigh, like there is a pop up market business called Triangle Pop Up, and they literally host pop up
Cool.
markets that makers can be vendors at, and it changes all the time. And now that stuff is opening up again and they're outside, it's really becoming popular, and they have a great network. They have a massive following. So, I was looking to partner with people like that. I've introduced myself to them and made connections, and ideally was trying to get a couple of them to be speakers, but they're so busy. So I thought of, okay, what's the plan B? Like, how do we keep this relationship moving forward? Not in a self-serving way, but a way that truly benefits us both and makers. And it went really well. So I'm glad that I thought outside the box in that way because I know my audience. Makers aren't sitting at their desk all day like
Yeah.
me, a digital coach, product creator. They are out there in the field making the thing. And so I was just trying to meet them where they are.
That is so cool. Oh my goodness. And I
Yeah.
think everybody, you guys can put this into action regardless of what your niche is. Even if
Mhm.
it's not a maker that has these markets, what is it for you? Are there associations? Are there groups that are a part of? How can you get in front of these people outside of your speakers? This is so cool. These are like,
Yeah.
when you think about it, it's like, okay, this shouldn't be mind blowing, but it goes outside of what we usually do for a summit. And it's like a duh thing once you start
Yeah.
thinking about it. So I love that you did this. What would you say, like if there's someone, listening who wants to leverage media like you've been talking about, but they haven't been building those relationships yet, what do you think the lead time should be for them to kind of start dipping their toes in this, building those relationships before they would expect to be able to make an ask successfully?
Sure. Yeah. So it's really important that you know the formats of kind of your wish list media. So I always advocate my clients to make their kind of wish list top 10 or 20 of local regional media first and get to know them. If you're pitching things like newspapers and radio and television broadcast, stuff like that, they work on really short lead times. So you don't want to pitch them too far in advance because they're going to be like, what the heck? Whereas if you have a local or regional magazine, you're going to want to pitch them anywhere from like 3 to 6 or 8 months in advance because it takes production time is longer. So knowing the formats of what you're pitching and then just following them, follow their social channels, follow the actual, journalists that align with you and your business and your mission is important, and genuinely read their stuff and get to know what they're about, because that is stuff that you can loop into your pitch. You really want to personalize those pitches, and that's what's going to get them on the hook. So it's not anything that I want people to think too hard about. It's just remembering that there's always a person on the other side of the screen. And it's just worth getting your voice out there. It doesn't have to be like paragraphs long. I always pitch via email. You're not picking up the phone. You're not Instagram DMing them. Every pitch is via email. It's personalized, and just give them room and space to come to you, and do not be afraid to follow up, because that's when the traction comes. It's not until like the third follow up. So if I were to give a quick rundown, that's it.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. I've been paying more attention to PR stuff over the past few months and pitching publications and doing these things. And like you said, once you have that relationship, you kind of understand how they work. So there's one publicist who's picked me up and published articles a couple times, and now I know how long his lead time takes. He wants to include me in things now because he knows he's getting good stuff, and just working in advance to kind of build those connections, learn what you need to about these different publications or whatever it is, you will then have the information you need to use the strategy effectively and reach out and make what will feel like a pretty easy ask once that relationship is built.
Yeah. And what I love about PR, just because I love doing it, I've been doing it for so many years, but the return is not just great when you get the story or the mention with the link that people can click. It's the social proof. It's like you then can put that publication's logo on your summit website. And you can also, something that I did that worked really well, I wanted to mention this too, is I put anywhere big that my speakers have been featured also on my summit website. And it added so much just zing to the website and the experience. And stuff like that, I think, gets people really excited. And again, helps legitimize the experience. Like, okay, this isn't just going to be a waste of my time. These people clearly know what they're talking about. Liz knows what she's talking about. The speaker she has, they know what they're talking about. And that just makes kind of that hesitation, that window when people come onto your registration page, that much shorter. So, looking at my registration page, I think I had 8 different opt-ins, and the most popular ones were right around where that social proof was, around the speakers. So it was kind of higher up on the page, middle page. So they definitely took some time to scroll, but it was right around that social proof zone that people were like, yes, I want to do this. So
that's super cool to know.
Yeah.
My brain is like going a million miles per hour. I love all of this so much. And also that I can see how effective it would be, but the strategy you broke down is like really easy. You've made, I don't want to say easy. Simple is maybe a better word. Like, it's not complex. It takes some effort and some time, but you made these contacts, and then from there, all you have to do, present it to them, ask them to do whatever they can for it. And I love that you thought to include that customized link, so you knew exactly where everyone was coming from. So cool. Thank you so much for sharing all this. Is there like a big takeaway you'd like listeners to get from what we talked about today, or an action you want them to take, anything like that?
Yes. I feel like the biggest takeaway is, especially if this is your first summit that you're ever hosting, is just to give yourself time to have fun with it. Like, I put so much pressure on it in the beginning, 8 months ago when I first got the idea and I first came across your stuff, Krista. I was like, gonna do all the things. And as time went on, I realized I didn't have to. And I just gave myself space to experiment with this and see what happens, instead of putting up all of these massive goals and parameters that were like, I have to get 10,000 people in this first time, and I have to do 40% affiliate commissions, and I have to have $5,000 ads. I just kind of like did what my gut told me to do, from everything down to those speaker relationships to the media relationships. And kind of in that same wheelhouse, giving yourself space and flexibility to have fun is just don't put all of your eggs in one basket. Like, just meet your people where they are, because it's going to be 10 times more fun for all parties that way. So I know this day and age, there's such a big pressure on blasting social media and running ads and all that. But honestly, like, we tried ads, it didn't work. What really worked was the stuff that I've just shared, is developing those relationships where it counts and being patient and allowing those relationships to kind of naturally unfold, which is why I brought up, I wish I gave myself just a few more months to develop those relationships, because I feel like my speakers and the media didn't always have enough time to like get what I needed and all that stuff. So I gave it a good couple of months, but I wish I gave it like 6 more months to really go hard. But it's all in all, summits are just such a great learning experience. Each one is so different. And I'm just so proud that I pulled the trigger and did it, because there was a time when I almost gave up on the whole thing. So that's, I guess, the biggest takeaway is just go for it and have fun with it.
I love that. I know you still had some goals set, but you took the unnecessary pressure off the situation and let yourself see it as a learning experience. Yeah, you're going to benefit in some way no matter what, but you gave yourself that freedom. And how much more fun were you able to have because of that? So
for sure.
Major props there. Again, thank you so much for sharing. Where can people go to learn more about you and what you offer and all that good stuff?
Sure. You guys can come hang with me over on Instagram, and you can check out my website. I've got a whole bunch of freebies there, and I know Krista is linking to them here.
Yep. We will have everything for you guys in the show notes. So definitely go connect with Liz. Say hey, let her know you found her through the podcast, all that good stuff.
I would love that. Develop those relationships.
Yes. Put it in action.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here, Liz.
Thanks, Krista. This was awesome.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. For show notes and resources mentioned and links to connect with Liz, head to summithosthangout.com/129. In the next episode, we'll be chatting with another guest about how to pivot an in-person event to being virtual. So be sure to tune in for that. Now go out and take action to plan, strategize, and launch your profitable online summit.